Hey everyone, since I mentioned in my last video that I'm planning on saving money now for Fan Expo, and that's at the end of August, so at the very end of this summer, um, I'm kind of short on money now, so I can't really do uh, any sort of review, pickup, or unboxing video because I just don't have the funds for it. So I thought I'd take a look at something that I've been planning on doing for a while, but just didn't have the time to get to it, and that is making a second part to my Toronto used video game store review video. Sorry for making that a mouthful, but I guess I'll just try to think of a better title for it afterwards. But yeah, all that matters right now is just the new stores that I've added to the list of used game stores that I've been to in the city of Toronto. I'm not going to include any EB games on this particular list, and I'm not going to include any stores that I haven't visited yet. Um, I will, though, at the end put. Well, I'll mention a list of stores that I'm planning to visit in the future. Just two stores that are a little further out of the city that I haven't had the time to get to yet, and I'll just possibly be going to these stores in the future, but I'll explain it later on in the video. So to start out, I'll be mentioning three more stores that I visited here in the city of Toronto. The first one is called Hero Video Games. It's at 870 Dundas Street West, and it's at Manny Avenue. Is just a few streets west of Bathurst and Dundas Street West. Uh, this store, I've been to it only once, but from what I saw, they had very little content, like very few games available, and very little space to display things also. They didn't really have any games that were really uh, in demand, and they didn't really have any games that were really expensive. So they didn't have anything too special there. The prices too were just a little bit high, but for a startup like this, because it's a fairly new store, the model that they have to follow is either lots of things for a cheap price or a few things for a higher price, and it seems like they went with that model instead of the previous one I mentioned. Next is that they also had trading cards there. Like they had a section of Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon cards, and I believe also they had something called a Card Fight Vanguard or something like that. I'm not into that, so I don't know uh, anything about that series really, but I'm pretty sure they had those cards there as well. They also had a few comics, I believe, just very few. Um, and they it was a strange story because I didn't see the owner there, and the person working there was pretty much a kid. Like he must have been 16, 17 years old. He looked pretty young. Um, yeah, I didn't have a good feeling about that store. I don't know if I will visit it again anytime soon, but I mean, they did have a few games there that I ended up picking up, like Teen Titans for the GameCube and Tekken 5 for the PS2. But otherwise, they didn't really have, like I said, anything special. So I didn't buy too much there. But if you're in the area, it's right across the street from a 7-Eleven, and it's pretty much about a block away from the bus stop. So it's not too far out of the way. It's easy enough to get there. If you're already near the Eden Center, you just jump onto the streetcar going westbound, and you'll be there in a few minutes. Now, another store that I'm going to mention is the small store. I really have no idea what this place is called. I can't remember it, and I can't seem to find it online, but it's at 250 Wellington. It's downtown, right close to the like really close to the Sky Dome, and it's a really small store, but they have a lot of like high-end rare games and consoles there. They even have a lot of older stuff there, and a lot of variant consoles and handhelds, and they even had like was it a Bandai uh, Wonder Swan, like these weird handhelds that came with like individual game cartridges, but they were mostly in Japan and in Asia, and I don't know if they really did come out here in North America, but they they seem interesting. But they have at the store, it's just this one guy who runs it, who has a decent collection of his own. Um, he has a lot of stuff, but because he seems to be more catered towards high end collectors, the prices do reflect that. But the prices by no mean are by no mean are they overpriced. It's just priced at what they're worth, both for just the base value and for the factor that they are popular, sought after games and consoles too. And yeah, that's at 250 Wellington. Next store that I went to is Iceman Video Games. This one's in Kensington Market. It's at 206 Augusta Avenue. They had a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. I can't mention again how much stuff they had in the store. They literally had, if I remember properly, it was like 100 Dreamcast games, and it was right there on the shelf, right in front of the door, right when you walked in, and I was just really happy. But also, it could just seem like they have a lot more things than they actually do, because the store is really small, and it has a lot of things packed into it. Now, the quality of the stuff there is really, really good, but I had an issue with the pricing of new games that are like a few years old, so not like the newest games, just games that are probably from like 2009, 2010. For example, there was Street Fighter 5, was it Street Fighter 5? No, Soul Calibur 5, sorry about that. Soul Calibur 5 Collector's Edition. They had it for $39.99, and I've seen it at several other stores for $29.99. So that's just one example of their prices being a little higher than other stores for new games, at least. And then even for example with the Dreamcast games, I saw that they had the Dreamcast. Well, this is an accessory, but it goes with a really great game. The with a lot of good games actually. The Dreamcast keyboard, they had it listed for $30, and that was way overpriced, way more than anybody should be charging for it. The store is really clean, and like I said, there are a lot of things stuffed into a really small space. And I love that I saw the Dreamcast stuff right off the bat, but so many of the games were expensive, and the cheapest games that they had in the store, other than sports games, were all $9.99. There was no variation in price, like I've seen at other stores. There was no games for like $4, $5, $6, $7, or even $8 or $9. The cheapest ones were $9.99, and then after that they seemed to go from $9.99 to $14.99 to $19.99, and $5 amounts up from that. But yeah, it was an interesting little store, and if you're in Kensington Market, you might as well check it out. If you're in the Spadina and College area, just walk a couple more minutes and you'll come by it. And if there's nothing there that really interests you, there's a lot of other stores in the area that you might find something there. Not video game related, but definitely something interesting. Next is a store that isn't specifically a video game store, but they have a lot of video games. It's called Buy and Sell Kings. It's at 2852 Danforth Avenue, and it's just east of Main Street Station. It's a really big store, and it's really clean, like clean. Um, the prices are fair for the most part, and I did find some cheaper games there also. Uh, but one thing that you need to be aware of is that they have like a shrink wrap machine at the front of the store. So if you see any factory sealed games, uh, be wary, because most likely they're not factory sealed if you find them at that store. Two examples are two of the, I believe, four Wheel of Fortune NES games. They had two games there. The one was the Vanna White game, and the other one was, I think, the Family Edition. They were both sealed, and they were there for $9.99. I knew they weren't actually like properly factory sealed, and the boxes were really squished. And even for $9.99, that was way too much. Something else that was interesting was that they had bundles of consoles with games in them. And one example is a TurboGrafx 16 console that I saw. It came with two controllers, I believe, and it's kind of weird because you sort of need the multi-tap for the second controller to be plugged in. But it came with two controllers, all the cables, and a stack of 4 to 5 games, and it was all for $125. And the only game that I could really make out was Dungeon Explorer. So for $125, considering other stores in the city have charged from $70 and more for the TurboGrafx 16 console with just one controller and the cables, that price seems a little fair, because then ANC sells TurboGrafx 16 games for a ridiculous amount of money. Even the sports games there are really expensive. They one thing that disappointed me was that they didn't have any Dreamcast games at all. Like, they were completely out of stock of everything Dreamcast. All they had was a single Dreamcast controller, just the basic gray one, and they had it for $15. And of course, I said no to that. And just like the Dreamcast controller, all the other individual controllers were really overpriced. One thing, though, that I was sort of interested to see was that they had, it was either 2 or 3 complete in box PS1 consoles, the original model and the later model, and they had them for like about $30-$40 completed in box, and the box was in pretty decent condition on 2 of them. The other one I don't remember it that well, but like, I mean, it was a really good price, all things considered. And they also have other things at the store, like other collectibles and toys. And I saw they had a whole bunch of Star Wars stuff also. So if you're into that stuff also, they have those things there. Now, the next store that I'm going to mention is sort of just a special mention, I guess. It's not a used game store, but just like the previous store, they have a large section devoted to video games, in most locations, that is, and that's cash converters. They have multiple locations across the city, and I know of at least one that's closing within a week from today, from the day that I'm posting this video. So when you see it, it could be closed already, so it wouldn't be much help of talking about that specific location. But what I wanted to tell you guys is just that it's a pawn shop. They usually have a large section of video games available. It's mostly current gen, but occasionally they have older games also. I was able to find some Dreamcast games there, but as for anything older, I found the Conker's game for the Game Boy, but nothing older than that. I found a couple PS1 games, but they were in horrible condition, and they were only sports games. Now, other than that, the prices were really low for the most part. Sometimes they have specific games that are going to be more expensive, especially the current gen games. Sometimes they can be really expensive. But from what I saw with the Dreamcast games, they had like a stack of 6 games, and they were only $6 each. So of course, I bought them all. It was like Tomb Raider and Mr. Driller and some other things. One thing that I don't like about the store is that they have a horrible return policy. Pretty much, if you don't bring it back within the same day, you're out of luck. And when you try to bring something back, they adamantly try to fix it right there on the spot, when usually it's something that just cannot be fixed. And then they insist that you exchange it for something else. If they don't have the same thing, then exchange it for something else in their store. And they did eventually do a refund for me on something that I bought, but it was after a long time sort of just getting them to listen to me and understand that I was done at this point. I just want a refund. And what I noticed at some of the smaller stores is that the quality isn't usually that great. I don't understand, like, this place is a pawn shop. If they're taking ship merchandise, how much money are they paying for this stuff in the first place? And how much are they really expecting to make back on it if it'll just sit in a bin and then only leave the store if it's dramatically reduced in price, or drastically reduced in price? I don't know why I said dramatically. But yeah, if you have the patience for it, you will find something there. And next, I'll just quickly mention 2 stores that I'm planning on visiting in the future once I have more money and the time to get out to them. The first store is called Toyratt. It's in Milton, Ontario, 781 Main Street East. They have their own YouTube channel, so you can check them out. I'm pretty sure the channel is just called Toyratt. You can probably just search it on YouTube and you'll find it. They look like it looks like they have a large selection of stuff, so it could be interesting. And Adam Krolik on YouTube also suggested that I check out that place since I live fairly close. And another store that I saw posting a lot of ads online was a store in Ajax, 619 Kingston Road West. It's called We Got Games. And yeah, I've just seen a lot of ads. Their prices seem fair from what I've seen so far. Like, they're not asking like ridiculous amounts for Game Boys, because I'm really looking for another Game Boy Advance SP and a Game Boy Color. And I called and they said that they had a decent amount of Dreamcast games, not a lot, but I'm definitely looking for more stores that have Dreamcast games, because I've pretty much picked most stores clean across the city. Either me or someone else has done it and I've just missed it. But yeah, that's it. That's what I have to say about these few stores here in the city. Like I said, I'll be checking out Toyratt and We Got Games in the following months. Hopefully by September I'll be able to check both those stores out, and I'll let you guys know what I got from those places. So, see ya.